Hey, welcome back to the X podcast. It has been a crowded table for the last month.
We booted people off.
We have, and it is finally back to the more production, the more show, the more...
If we tell people more brothers, they will think we're related.
I told you, I've received that several times lately.
Yeah.
Just appreciate the word that you and your brother bring to the church and like that.
Yeah.
We're going to kick us off with a little bit of commentary on a debate last Thursday night from...
Have we not talked about the debate since we've been on here?
No.
Since we record ahead.
That was Thursday.
We record ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
So by the time this comes out...
It's going to be a couple weeks after.
Yeah, probably, we might be on to the second debate.
That's true. Is there going to be a second debate?
Yeah, there's supposed to be. I don't think it's for a while. So... that was interesting.
That was
probably okay. When I knew and heard that the debate was coming up that week, I told my wife, I was like, "We have to watch." Why do you want to watch that? This is going to be the best TV you've seen in a while. This is just going to be absolute drama.
See, I told you last time it happened. It was so, and I understand it's theatrical, so there's an entertainment value. If it wasn't so tragic, and the leading democracy powers of the world were at stake, but I think. It was so chaotic and so unhinged last time and so demeaning that it made my blood pressure rise. I felt like just on pins and needles.
Wait, when you said last time, you mean the time before this?
2020.
2020. Yes.
So this time, I told you, I at least felt like it was more controlled.
I love the format.
Yes, the format was better. I mean, it's probably less, WrestleMania pay-per-view, but it was, they muted somebody if they weren't talking.
Yep, I love that.
They had to take turns.
They weren't interrupting each other.
They weren't interrupting each other. There wasn't as much name calling. There was still a lot for what you would consider to be presidential candidates, but it was shocking. It was a shocking. I was walking over listening to Kevin. I was like, why were we not all? We need to bring Kevin back on here and process all this. But it was a shocking and saddening night, I thought.
Yeah, my brief commentary was, okay, my favorite part of the entire night golf was them arguing about their handicap and who could hit the ball further. At the same time, that's the irony of how low we've gone as a country, that we have two candidates who are both, how do I say this nicely? They're both beyond their prime.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
One of them really showed that age has not been kind in the last few years. Mm-hmm. I felt sad. We've seen it. This is not new.
Yeah.
Sad and very worried or concerned about President Biden. Mm-hmm. Makes you think, I don't know if he's really running the country right now.
Yeah.
Maybe hope he isn't really running the country right now. Again, I know sometimes maybe he's just got things that aren't firing right, and so he's getting lost in his thoughts more than he's not capable. But thinking of 4 more years at the progression, I saw a video clip where, I think I might have sent it to you, where people were showing what he was like in 2019. Maybe from debates or whatever or before the debates, but 2019 versus now. And it's like he's a different person, which we all know.
Yeah.
We've seen. Being in that office ages you way more than normal, right? It's like a 1.5 or 2
President
times.
Obama went in with black hair and left with gray hair.
Yeah, it ages you. Yeah. And so I think that unless you dye your hair and spray tan, it may not age you as much visually, right?
True.
I mean, but that left me with a lot of concern. I thought it started out, and I thought Donald Trump was doing a much better job starting out. And then you could tell with both of them, they finally got to a point where they just couldn't help themselves. It got emotional. They start calling each other names. They are both making up facts that are not even close to being true.
You know who I feel bad for? The fact checkers of that night.
It was bad. I mean, Donald Trump, it was clear that, not only would he lie on things, President Biden did too. There's other ones I've seen that I don't think, but also they get very hyperbolic about everything is so extreme. And it's like, you're letting billions of people wait. Well,
Yeah.
which is it? There's a big difference between millions and billions.
Yep. No one's ever cared for vets like me. No one's ever done for the economy what I have.
Yeah.
No one's. I mean, they both have a very
The
elevated
worst
view.
president in the history of mankind,
Or the
we're
best president.
Like it's such.
Yeah, so many emotions, and we always try to be careful when we're talking about all this kind of stuff. But honestly, I walked in because if you watch CNN, there's just as many folly moments with former President Trump and his speech and him saying things or his dentures or whatever. And then there's a ton of stuff obviously made from Biden and his. Not saying they're like equal. Obviously, there's been a more observable cognitive decline with President Biden. Mm-hmm. But I think what was most shocking for me was, okay, President Biden has been at Camp David being prepared 5 days. All you hear is he's going through this rigorous, debate and looking through his going through his ideas, and then he shows up and is the most feeble, the most absent-minded, the most lost in space. The moment he opens his mouth, it was just shocking. I mean, from a performance, listen, lies went all over that room from both sides. Yeah. From a performance standpoint, President Trump just made hash of them.
Yeah. But then I think too. This is the sad part of all of it is I walked away from the debate going, I have zero idea of what these guys would actually do in the next term.
Yes.
We never heard, this is what I would do. I have a plan. I would install this, stop this. I would hire this. Zero plan. Yeah. All it was talking about, I never said that. And he says these things and then just some of them,
just
with
slander and fear mongering.
Let's be honest, let's call it for what it is. It's so narcissistic. Well, if I were president, Putin would have never done that.
Yeah.
If I were president, China would be.
No.
Really? You have that much power and control? I guess he maybe does, but I don't know.
No, we saw that all Putin had to do was flatter him, and he would go against his own intelligence agency.
Yeah.
I think on both sides there was just a classlessness.
Yeah, and so it's a sad state of affairs for our political system, for our country, for the next 4 years. Best thing that could happen would be somehow neither of them can run, and they had to put two new candidates in last minute, and I think we would. We'd be better served. And I think the most shocking part, we can move on, but I think the most shocking and maybe beyond the entertainment of the actual, and I say entertainment, not if you actually care about our country and its future and the democracy we have, but entertaining to watch, was the shock and awe of CNN's analysts, especially the Democrats on their analyst panel. They kind of had some of both.
They're beside themselves.
And here's what's funny to me. Right. And again, I don't know what hits your algorithm, but I've had plenty of things that President Biden has done that have been like, I got questions. Are you there? And I'm just blown away by the Democratic Party and how shocked they are to see this. Like they think this is the first time. This isn't new. And all of a sudden they're scrambling going, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I could have helped you with this
right.
2 years ago if you needed help.
Yeah, but I think I told you, I definitely get that part. It's like, why are you shocked? There's been so many of these moments. But I still think it was stunning simply from the fact of, there's a difference between being able to cut and paste moments of stumbling.
Yeah.
And this is the moment you've been prepping for all week. This is your moment to shine. This is the moment where you're taking electrolyte packets and energy drinks or whatever you got to do. And it was the worst. And I think also this is the first time in 4 years, because, 4 years ago, there was some cognitive stuff, but Biden and Trump held their own in terms of yelling over each other, debating, whatever. And now it's like night and day. And to see Trump just kind of he just seemed comfortable, loud and brash as ever. And Biden, it's like he turned 100 and is just feeble. Yeah. And it was sad to watch. And so I walked away, I was thinking, and then Jake Tapper on CNN is debating with Kamala, like, Kamala's like defending. It's like, no, some people just don't debate well. And Jake Tapper's like, are you really telling me you're not concerned? I mean, Jake Tapper, I thought
he was in the room. He knows.
Yeah,
It definitely leaves me very concerned about our future. And then I also just think, granted, I'm glad I don't always see it, and know it, but how embarrassing. When you think about America as supposed to be the global leader, and on one of the biggest stages ever, think about foreign dignitaries. Think about what must they think?
China and Russia is thinking. I don't think we're worried anymore.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah. Well.
So happy Friday,
Robert Kennedy.
yeah.
You know what's crazy? I have never really listened to anything from Robert Kennedy.
Well, it's hard to.
And then I thought, wow, I really need to look at independent candidates. He's the only really other one that was close enough. Mm-hmm. He says that he had enough to get on a stage and I listened to his video and I go, wait, what's wrong? Did you have cancer? Do you have or does his voice always sound like that? Is he sick? I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say anything mean about it, but it's just really hard to listen to.
It's hard to listen to him. He doesn't usually put his thoughts into much coherency. It doesn't seem to be very cogent.
It's just more the sound of his voice. I was like, something, is that what his voice always sounds? Sounds bad. I'm not trying to be critical.
Yeah,
but
it's also a little tough when you Google the list of conspiracy theories that he onboards.
Oh yeah,
the list is pretty long.
I've heard that before. I don't know much about him. I just listened to one video when he was giving his recap, and I was like, I don't know if I could watch a State of the Union address if he won.
Yeah, it's so leaders of America, would you rise in this moment? There is still a window.
Well, I'm thinking of writing your name in.
My name, yeah.
Russ Moore for president.
Would you please run?
Let's all do that. Nope. If all you want to see Russ as our next president, write his name in the ballot. Let's start it.
Would I be history's first moderate, first non-Republican, non-Democratic? Has there ever been? Have we ever had somebody that's not Republican or?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not enough.
I mean, the truth is, historically, even if you were a Republican or Democrat, historically, most were way more moderate than what we've experienced the last 8 to 12 years.
Yeah.
But anyways, we were going to talk about something. One of the things that I told you I thought about, it's a little bit more of an abstract concept, but with real life implications, is the idea, the danger of something called apathy. And the reason I've been thinking about it, I think it's kind of probably a few reasons. One, while apathy, passion, whatever, is not a personality type, I do think some people are born a little bit more driven or not. I do think some people intrinsically, even whether it's personality type, DNA, upbringing, whatever, have a little bit more drive, grit, in them than others.
So when it comes to apathy, right? You think it would be fair? We need to separate apathy from necessarily just saying it's the antithesis of drive, right? To an extent, because I think you can have people that do not have a particular drive to say create something, build something, whatever. It doesn't mean that they're also apathetic in life.
It doesn't mean they're apathetic in life. I think I would probably, if you're going to put apathy and complacency in the same, kind of boat, I think it would be fair to say an antonym of apathy and complacency would be passion.
Sure.
Urgency. Maybe urgency is a better word.
Yeah.
Drive. And again, that can be kind of something across the board in someone's personality mix.
Yeah.
Or it can be in individual areas of their life. But I think I've just been thinking about this for a lot of reasons. One, I am somebody who probably, I don't know if I was just born with it, intrinsically a very passionate person. It is not hard for me to get passionate.
Right.
And there are a lot of things that make me excited.
Yep.
Somebody that's always been excited about life. I can get whatever I'm giving my heart and soul to, working at, I get very passionate about. But I have areas of blind spots of apathy as well, and they can be incredibly destructive. But I've just been thinking about this in terms of just even in our faith community. I've been thinking about this in terms of friends I know. I have, in the line of work me and you do, we're constantly meeting with people.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've watched is, and this may be why it kind of got in my heart, is I was thinking about the people I know that seem to struggle the most. And some of the people I know that seem to struggle the most, it's not even as much that they make what society would call negative decisions, but it is an inability to get past apathy. And many times apathy is the door through which destructive decisions are made. But it creates this frustration whether you're a leader or you're a family member, whether you're a leader or not, maybe you're listening to this, you're watching this, and you have family members or friends that you're like, man, I just wish I could help them. I wish I could help them get past this. And the one thing you can't do, I remember hearing Erwin say this, is like you can help anybody through any dysfunctional area of their life. It doesn't matter how broken, doesn't matter how jaded, doesn't matter what the addiction is. The one thing you can't do is actually give people motivation.
Right.
The one thing you can't do is actually give people passion. You can't give them drive. And it made me start thinking, I'm like, as much as like, we pick on certain pet sins or unhealthy behaviors, it just got me thinking, I'm like, I wonder if like literally the worst hidden enemy to all of our lives as far as health and growth is apathy. One last little spiritual thing. I remember hearing A.W. Tozer, this old spiritual writer, say this about the story of Esau and Jacob, and how I'll never forget this one phrase, and I don't think he meant this as a cuss. He said the thing that damned Esau the most was his apathy. He said Jacob was far more broken on paper. He was far more dysfunctional. He was far more everything. But Esau was content to settle for whatever was in front of him, for whatever his momentary craving was. He was content to settle. And I just wonder how often apathy and complacency steals more from us than we know. And so it just got me thinking. It even got me thinking in terms of, I'll just ramble and maybe jump in and inject.
When
you think in terms of the community you keep, the company you keep, I think you actually see this play out a lot. Parents, I'm sure you're like this, Lauren and Audrey back in the day, like be careful who you hang out with. Bad company corrupts good character. But I think while people are really good at making sure that their inner circle, the people that can influence them, aren't necessarily dealing drugs or whatever crazy destructive, I think the sneakier thing is when your inner circle is complacent.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a person of faith, let's just say this: if you are a follower of Jesus, if the people in your life, they may be good people.
Yeah. But
if church is kind of like a take it or leave it, I'll go when I can.
Yeah.
If that's gonna be them, that'll be you. If they're like that in finances, if that's them, that'll be you.
Yeah.
In any area of life, I think the sneakier thing when it comes to what you surround yourself with and what you allow in your spirit, is actually apathy.
Yeah. No, I think you're making some good points. I mean, I think the tricky thing is when apathy is one of those things that, I think in a really dysfunctional person, it's easy to spot. I think in a fairly functional person, I think it's harder to see, especially in yourself.
Yes.
And I think it can creep in. It may not be all areas.
Yeah.
But I think it can creep in to where you just, and maybe a good way of defining this in my mind, because when I hear apathy, I think of somebody who's just almost like folds their arms and refuses to do anything. But I don't think a lot of people are like that. However, I do think we get stalled out in life and we lose drive for whatever it is. It could be working on your relationship. We just see that happens in marriage, happens in relationships. Over time, why do they kind of fizzle? Why do they this? Is because we get apathetic. And I think we get apathetic in environments where we get comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I think comfort is like one of the key ingredients in having an apathetic posture in life, as you get so comfortable. And yet that is one of the driving things in life for Americans is to be comfortable. Right? It's to finally get to a certain point where I make this much money, then I will be comfortable, right? And and I think most of us know that we're always, I guess, maybe pushing forward and trying to do that. But I do think that I see it in some people. And the people that inspire me the most are the ones that they're the ones that are building, creating, launching, starting something, doing something new, have a new project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the ones that inspire me, get me fired up. I want to do this, this, and this. I've got 3 things I'm thinking of right now that I want to do. I think the question I would have for you, and like, how do we help people? Because not everybody is wired like that.
Yes.
You and I are, and again, I don't know if it's always a personality thing. It does sometimes follow certain ones, like Enneagram 3s tend to be a little more driven for whatever reason. They just, they tend to like, I want to conquer the world and I want to write books and I want to do this on the side and I want to do this. You know what I mean? Usually for some people, their problem's not apathy, it's focus, right?
Yeah.
But so where is in your mind, how do people find themselves? Because not everybody's wired that way. And I don't know that everybody needs to be. I think we all have different, I think some people are quite, I want to say settled in who they are, which is I'm good to go to my job and to take care of my kids and to enjoy some free time. Like, is that person apathetic because they don't have audacious goals in life of what they want to or things they want to create and do? I mean, that's a fair question because I think there's a lot of people out there that go, I don't think of myself as apathetic. And I don't know if we should.
Yeah. It is a really tricky thing. And so it's really hard to answer because number one, if you are that kind of person, that's just content.
Yeah.
You're a content kind of person. Number one, teach me your ways.
Yeah. I don't think that's a bad thing, I guess is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Teach me honestly, that is an area that I am weak, is contentment. I tend to be more restless in nature. I tend to, have a little bit, usually more just, turmoil of passion I'm wrestling through than just, okay, I did this. Now I'm just going to be a homebody and just relax. And this is great. Kick my feet back.
But okay, so let's.
And I'm not making fun.
No.
Honest to God, like the scriptures actually commend contentment. Well, I think it's a powerful thing.
Know. Well, I guess maybe if we didn't have 2 Enneagram 3s here, they're both driven at the table. Could we flip the script and say, do we talk about apathy because we're more driven, and yet do we never take a look at what causes us to be driven? Obviously, apathy is not our thing, but is it because we're trying to find validation? Is it because, why are people who are driven to do that may not be a very healthy thing either?
Yes.
They can run, you know what I mean? And
every attribute has a shadow side.
Yeah.
And has to search their hearts for the motive. So, it is like I have I have so many shadow sides and weaknesses and all that. I can say, I think you'd say the same thing for you. I have been very intentional over the last 10 to 15 years to do work, to search my motives, try to address my shadow side. I mean, that's why over the last 10 years, I have been passionate about things like Sabbath. I have been passionate about trying to make my rhythms better and, read contemplative books because I want to make sure that I'm addressing the inner person in me and cultivating more of an inner peace and all those kind of things. And that, when I do things, they're from the right place. So, I feel like I at least try to address that side. I also think that it could be easy when you think of stuff like passion. I do think it could be easy and unfair to categorize that with a personality type of aggressive and loud and extroverted.
Yeah.
Passion is, can we say it this way, is an inward determination to move forward in the things that matter. And so you could be an introvert, you could be meek, humble, and quiet, but have an inward passion that causes you not to settle in the areas that matter. So you could be somebody that nobody ever sees you get outwardly whatever, but what they don't know is that every year you are intentional to draw closer to God. Every year you are intentional to be a better spouse. Every year you are intentional to love the people around you more fiercely. Yeah. You are intentional. And to me, that's not a personality type. I also do think, and maybe this is the Enneagram 3/4 in me, I also do think what all of us have to be careful of is there may be some things we think is natural to our personality type, or what we'd even call contentment, that it might actually be a suppression. I think all of us are called to live more fully alive than the level we're living. And I think a lot of us, either through what we've seen surround, a lot of us live up to just what we've seen modeled.
Yeah.
A lot of us just live up to what we've seen around us, and that's what we settle for.
Yeah.
Others of us, out of fear or shame, kind of a long time ago, ceased to give ourselves permission to keep dreaming. I've had several conversations with people recently that have given me permission to speak into their lives, and I just told them, it has been way too long since you've given yourself permission to dream again.
Yeah.
I think this can be tough when you become a parent. I'm not a parent. I won't pretend to know what a parent's like, but I think in the good that happens when you become a parent, you're the humility and maturity that comes with focusing on somebody else, the shadow side to that could be you lose yourself. And you forget that one of the greatest gifts you can ever give your children is to allow your children a front row seat to watch their parents pursue their dreams and purpose.
Yep.
So I don't know. That's just some rambling.
No, I think it's kind of just a hard concept to really nail down. Like, we understand what it is, but I think when you get practically speaking, I think it's hard for people to kind of, ask the question, is there apathy in me? I think that's right. A question we all want to know. And I don't think it's,
well, can we define it? Would that help?
Well, yeah. That's what I think would help. I think we all understand that's not always holistic. Like, there could be certain areas of your life where you have become more apathetic than others. You could have a big drive at work, career, all this other stuff, and have become apathetic in a relationship. Have become apathetic spiritually. Have become apathetic when it comes to just, I don't know, different things that you do. So I do. Yeah. I think when I think of apathy, I think of it as an internal. It's an internal maybe reflection. Yeah. Of maybe our attitude or disposition toward doing something. Yep. When I think of how it is borne out, to me, the one thing on the external, how it shows up. So how does apathy show up? To me, it shows up, I guess, a couple ways. One I'd say a physical way is like laziness. I think another one is like a term I think you already said, but is apathy will show up where you just disconnect. You're not super engaged. Yep. So I think if we could define what it looks like, the attributes of what it looks like, I think that's when we can all kind of look in our own lives and go, okay, where have I become apathetic? Yep. Where am I not engaged? Could be your health. Yeah. Could be your diet. Could be your, where have you just, I don't care anymore. Yep. Right? Yep. Here's the dictionary definition: lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. Yeah. Lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. So it's almost like not caring anymore. Yeah. There's no emotional heat. Can we say it that way? Sure. There's no emotional, maybe this is a way, and, everybody that's just so graciously listening, we're kind of just finding our way along. We don't usually plan these. This is just something we've been processing. So to me, just processing in the moment, maybe a good way to think through apathy practically is an area of your life where there's a lack of emotional heat that corresponds with a lack of practical progress. Yeah. So here's an example, right? Because I've been thinking about this one lately. We have a wedding coming up, so I'm trying to make sure I fit in my suit, okay, so to speak. But as I've gotten older, and so as I've gotten older, right, I've had to think more about what I'm eating. I've had to shift, not just eat whatever, whenever, not, all these good things that you just don't love to do, but you know you have to. I've had the thoughts come to my mind before, when I'm intentionally like, okay, I'm not eating any sweets. I'm not doing this. I'm cutting back on carbs. Like when I part of me, it sometimes thinks I have this little voice inside my head and goes, why do you care? Yeah. That is the soundtrack of apathy. That is. It's like, and you see other people that don't seem to care. And they don't care about their health or being in shape or other, and then, so I have things that just play them. It's like, I'm tired of caring. I don't want to care. Can we talk about that? Okay, that's a practical place where I've wrestled with it lately. That's not just a practical place, but you bring up a great thought. What does the sound, maybe this is another helpful thing. What does the soundtrack of apathy sound like? Yeah. So you just gave one, which was, say it again.
Who cares?
Why do I care?
Why do I care?
I don't
Here's another one. What's the point?
Yeah.
Here's another one. Might as well.
Yeah.
Here's another one. Probably one day.
Yeah.
I think when you can, if those voices are there, that is a soundtrack of apathy. And here's the other reason I think apathy, and because again, it's not only easy for maybe us to like talk about apathy because our weaknesses may be different, but I also think, like you said, there are hidden places of apathy in me. Even if I would describe myself as a passionate person.
Yeah.
And here's why it's so hard to spot it in yourself, is because in many ways we gauge it by whatever we've surrounded ourselves by, which is why I think actually one of the greatest ways that you shift this in your life, I actually think it's one of the only ways you shift this in your life is by what you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So to your point, and this is going to sound so bad, but if I'm, I'm going to change the example. Well, okay.
If I'm with people who will eat anything, and always want to go out for whatever.
Let me say it in a way that will put the heat on me.
Okay.
Financially, me and you joke about, you're an extremely frugal person. You and Pastor Trey are extremely frugal people. I'm not. I am not. Now, I am, as much as we joke, I am extremely conservative with debt.
Yeah.
I have very little to no debt. It took me years until a few years ago to convince myself to even get a credit card again. So I'm extremely conservative with debt. I've always been extremely intentional as far as giving. I have my paycheck. I have savings and investments that come out. Like I've read every Dave Ramsey book. I'm trying to cover myself here. I am very intentional in a lot of ways. Yeah. I've even helped teach debt sermons here before. But when it comes, after I've given, and after I've saved and invested, and after I pay my bills, I can spend.
I want to enjoy it.
I can spend, and well,
you're not apathetic about spending money.
I am not, but and there's a whole conversation for a whole nother time. Yeah. But I had a house in Atlanta, and I lived in a house in Atlanta. Moved here. You move to a new place, you don't know exactly how long you're going to be there.
Right.
There's been different times here and there I've looked at buying a house, and then all the excuses aside, by the time I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Looks like I'm going to be here a while.
Yeah.
Rates go through the roof.
Yeah.
Everything else happens. Then I'm just like, oh man. So I'm looking at ways. I'm like, okay, I could be a whole lot more intentional with my discretionary. I could be a whole lot more intentional. I could be, be a whole lot more intentional to get in this house, whatever. But I noticed you're smiling.
I wanted when you said discretionary, I thought to myself, because you love going to coffee shops, you love to work. I think the people would want to know, on average, how much would you say you spend every day on food or coffee?
I don't know if I want to go there. Although, you know what? Let me tell you something. Here's what's funny though, is as often as I go out,
and you eat well, so. Not like you eat well. Like you like healthy food, which is always more expensive.
Yeah.
You like fine foods. You like the finer things of life.
Although it's funny, me and Tommy are having this conversation, and this is just a sidebar. A lot of times when I'm going to these places, not always, but a lot of times when I'm going to these places, I'm not buying anything. So Sunday night, I get done working out, I go to North Star, like I almost always do.
Yeah.
North Star's not cheap.
No.
When I went there, you know what I got?
A cup of water.
I got their sparkling water because it's incredible and it's free. And I asked behind the bar for a lemon, lime, and orange, squeeze it in. I was just happy. I sat there reading, working on stuff.
Boy, they loved you.
Never spent a cent. I go there often enough to where they like me and they don't care.
Yeah.
But
you didn't answer your question about, on average, what would you say you spend on food, eating out, and coffee?
Weekday or weekend?
It doesn't matter. Does it matter?
Well, yeah, weekend you're going out.
Okay, weekend.
Oh, let's just talk about weekday.
Okay, we digress. But
I don't know. I mean, yes. Let's see. What was
30?
Tuesday, Monday.
30?
Yesterday, I probably spent. I always make my own breakfast.
Yep. See, there you go.
Honest to God, I'm thinking about this. It's
probably just lunch and dinner.
Every day looks different because honestly, I usually half the time during the week I don't eat a dinner.
Yeah.
I am like, I'm doing protein bites to go.
Yeah.
I get done with the gym late, probably compared to most people, 8 o'clock. I do a protein shake and go to North Star and usually just get sparkling water. Sometimes I'll eat something extra. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
So it could be anywhere from $10 to $15 to 30 or 40. Just depends on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good weekday.
That's a good.
we didn't talk about weekends. Well, you were just talking about your discretionary. Yeah. That's totally off subject, but I just thought it was funny when you said that. But but you in other words, you could be a little bit more. I mean, I wouldn't call you an apathetic person, but we were saying like in certain areas of our life, we can.
I can create more urgency there.
And create more urgency, have more of the heat and passion. So I think when it shows up, because I do think of apathy, and they say it's like internal, right? I think it's more of a motivator.
Yeah,
it's like the motivation. So like, what's the motivation in your life? Because I do think you might not give yourself to business, but you might give yourself to family. It could be that your family is what you're really passionate about, and the job is just how you pay the bills. Now, I think just so we can delineate a little bit, right? It's okay if you have to have a job to pay the bills and you don't love it. You're not passionate about your job, but you still, apathy in the job in that situation means to me that you're lazy at work. It means that you may show up, may not show up on time. Like, I think that you can have attributes or that come through your apathy can come through. Even in something you're not passionate about. And I think that's what we have to caution against. I think I want to be careful that people don't hear it's like, well, if you're not planning to start a new business and you're also not planning to write a soundtrack or create a new album, write a new book, do all that stuff, then you're apathetic. I don't think that's it. I think it's more of in your life, are there areas where you don't give yourself to that when it's time to give yourself to that. Yeah. And you have these thoughts that you're like, well, who cares? It's not going to matter anyways. What does it matter?
Can we say it this way? I mean, script, Colossians, whatever you do, do it with all your heart. Yeah. Whatever scripture says, whatever your hand finds, do it with all your heart. Can we say it this way? Because I do agree you can be apathetic in some areas, passionate in other areas, but I also believe that one of the things you can have overall in your life is you can choose to have an enthusiastic spirit.
Yes.
And if you choose to have an enthusiastic spirit, you can carry that into anything.
Correct.
You can carry that into any room, any meeting, any interaction, anything you do. If you have Well,
I was going to say, I think an example we're talking about in the workplace, this just made me think about this because I agree. I mean, I think you can be, what I'm saying is you may not have a drive to advance your career. Like my wife, she was just saying this the other day. She's been a nurse for 26 years or whatever.
It seems like the picture of contentment, Laura.
Yes, very, very much. And so she just had, she just mentioned this the other day. She had her, 1 year review, or whatever, with her boss, and she's, what's it called? She's contingent. So that means she kind of works her own schedule, works 1 day a week at the hospital, whatever, And her boss is like, okay, so I just wanted to know, do you have any future professional goals or things that I can help you with? And she's like, no, I'm content. I'm good. So for her, going to work, and she works really hard, going to work is, I'm happy to maybe work one night, because she works nights, one night a week. I don't need to do any more than that. Yeah. And I don't want to become management. I don't have any desire to do that. I don't want to do this. I think what I'm saying is I wouldn't look at that and say that person is apathetic toward work. I think what would determine that in anybody's situation is how they are when they're there. Yes. And so the term that comes to my mind that I think was a model of apathy, it's not a term we talk about today. I don't know if it's still kind of a thing. It kind of was quiet quitting.
Yes.
Right? Quiet quitting was almost kind of like this, I'm going to show up because you're paying me, but I'm not going to care. And I think that's one thing I think my wife would really say is true. She was like, I go to work, and when I'm there, I care. Like I'm there, 100% there, and I'm going to work hard. Anything she does, while I'm there, I'm working 100%, even if I don't want to do this. And so I think that's why I'm saying it's kind of, I think it's important to separate apathy as this internal motivator or internal enthusiasm or internal thing you carry with separate that with this like drive to reach a peak in business or start something or build something and all that, because some people aren't wired for that and don't want to do that. But you instead, it's like, even in areas where maybe you don't enjoy, but we all have things in life we have to do that we don't enjoy, even those things, do you still bring your best to it?
Yes. And what's the purpose behind it? So here's where, curious your thoughts on this. I know we're processing all this in a lifetime, but like, and this is where, and if you're not an Enneagram person, this just maybe you might be like, whatever, this is white noise. But here's where, you argue, well, some people argue I'm an Enneagram 4, not an Enneagram 3. Here's where I feel more Enneagram 4. Like, I really am not inspired by status or like titles or like whatever. Like, I've never climbing the corporate ladder kind of stuff. I feel like that's a very 3 thing. Yeah. I've always been driven, but it's always been a little bit more ethereal. I know this sounds very ethereal, but more of like a significance of I want to leave an impact overall on the earth. It's more this significance thing, this search for significance, and that can have its good side, healthy side, and its shadow side. What I would argue, the reason I bring that up is I don't think healthy passion has to be an outcome thing of I'm gonna do this, get this role, I'm gonna get this title, I'm gonna climb the ladder. What I do think is healthy, and whatever it looks like for every personality type, is to have an overarching, if you're a follower of Jesus, an overarching purpose that drives every area of your life.
Yep.
So if you're at work, it may not be, I'm driven to manager, be promoted. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I would ask, do you have a drive that with the mission of Jesus on your life, you're going to make an impact through whatever you do?
Sure.
Do you have at least enough drive that you want to be like Daniel, who shined in whatever sphere he was in to advance the kingdom of God wherever you go? Do you have, and so that would be the thing I would ask more of, is not what are you driven by with end results, but what purpose is driving you in all the areas of your life, be that family, career, whatever.
Well, I think that what you're saying, I would agree. I think apathy is the result of little or no vision.
Yes.
In whatever area.
Yep.
And to be honest, when I think about, so kind of maybe a weird connection to make, but from our seat in what we do in this community, I think the thing that kind of almost concerns me the most is I don't see in America a whole lot of lack of drive or vision for accomplishment. I do see at times a lack of drive or vision for spiritual vibrancy.
Yes.
That's one thing I do see I want to just say in general, I'm not thinking about any one person in our church, but I think of the American church.
Yes.
That there's a lot of people that will pop in, pop out.
Yes.
They'll go to church. They get something from it. And maybe be a part of it, but that's kind of the full extent of maybe their spiritual life. So I'm kind of turning this apathy more toward an internal and a spiritual relationship.
Yeah.
And I know in my own life, I feel like there are times when you use the term heat, where there's a spiritual intensity that ebbs and flows. And when it ebbs, I think it's a spiritual apathy. And I think we all fight it. I think there's a spiritual apathy that the entire church fights. And I also don't want to discount the fact that I'm never quick to kind of like blame this on supernatural things, but I do think maybe the easiest way that our spiritual enemy has kind of gotten into and infiltrated into the church, especially in Western societies and other things, has created more of a spiritual apathy than anything else. It's like not bad people doing bad things, good people doing no things.
Yes. That sounds like a Martin Luther King Jr. quote.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like, it's like, I think this is where I think if the rubber meets the road, and if we're honest, especially probably most of our community that listens and watches, where if you've gotten this through all of our ramblings, this is kind of like from me with the pastoral part where, and it's a personal check, but I think that's kind of the thing. It's, you also have to check that. I'm not doing bad things.
Yeah.
but am I doing anything?
Yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, I can hear
Even with God, is it more than just a Sunday show up? Is there a rhythm? Is there a time where I'm connecting and care about spiritual vitality in my life with God, and not just showing up on Sunday and if I don't, I'll feel bad. Because I think there's a cultural, you came from the South. There is an entire cultural version of Christianity, which is you would go to church because it's an expectation. I think it becomes something that you do, that really it does become part of religion, where it's like, okay, if I don't do this, I'm going to feel guilty. Or if I haven't gone in a while and some bad things are happening, then maybe that's why. And I need to get back in there and do this. And I think that's the wrong motivation. But I think what's underneath all of that is the spiritual apathy.
Yes. Yeah, I got 1,000 thoughts going through my mind right now. I mean, again, one of the dangers of apathy is it's not static. You're either moving forward or backwards. And there's that old analogy every youth pastor in the world gives of you're at the shore and you're just kind of floating. And before you know it, the tide.
Yeah.
You're like, how have I come this far?
Yeah.
Danger of apathy is it's not static. And, you talk about, it's not that I'm doing a bad thing, it's that I'm doing no thing. I mean, you can't. For me as a follower of Jesus, I can't hear that and not hear the words of Jesus saying, I know your works.
Yeah, but I don't know you.
But I wish you were hot or cold. But because you're lukewarm, you're just kind of apathetic. You're just kind of, there's this line from the prophet that sounds very old school, but in Isaiah, it says, woe to those who are at ease in Zion. You're just taking it easy. You're just chilling. You're just relaxing. And there's such a danger in that. And again, this isn't like me throwing stones because people, if anybody's part of our faith community, they could watch me preach, be like, oh, well, Pastor Russ, he's not apathetic. Are you kidding me? Because we're all on different journeys. Right. When I read the biographies of my spiritual heroes, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm asleep.
Yeah.
When I read about their prayer lives and I look at my prayer life, I'm like, I'm in a coma.
Yeah.
When I look at their urgency and heartbreak for the world and reaching the world, and then I look at my love for convenience and comfort, I'm like, I'm paralyzed.
Yeah.
And so it's not a shame thing, but I just think for all of us, it's like, how do we, if health and growth and life is found, because I did have one thought that came through my mind. Apathy creates inertia. Passion creates momentum.
Yeah, I love that.
And so one of the other dangers about apathy is it becomes harder and harder the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel this in so many areas of my life. You just pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you do that enough times, it's really hard to make yourself get up.
Man.
In whatever area that is.
And I think you've just described, I think what a lot of people have seen it in or felt in their life in probably a variety of areas, the same way was like eating. It's like, oh, just eat a little bit worse. A little bit worse, a little bit worse, and eventually you fall back into habits you have, and then it's like starting all over again.
Yeah,
I think the same thing spiritually. I think it's like it's easy to miss, like even just because I think going to church is such an important part of our regular. It's almost like a check-in every week with God, right?
Yeah.
If like the good news is that you put it on your calendar and it's a priority, then it forces you a check-in, even if you've had an apathetic week.
Yeah.
The problem comes is when you even begin to remove those. I'm just thinking of one aspect.
Yeah.
There's so much to the spiritual life.
Right.
Like there's the people there's some people that I see every Sunday, and they're servant leaders, and they're here all day Sunday, serving multiple experiences. They're here. They're bought in the mission. They're leading areas. I like thank God for people like that.
Yeah.
Like the church operates and runs on people like that.
Yes.
It doesn't run on the staff. It runs on, I can think of just a million people who are just coming to my mind. It's like every Sunday they're here, they're dedicated, but I think it's because they've bought into a mission, purpose, and vision.
Yeah.
And so they feel like they're a part of it. They're called to be a part of it. And then I think that there's so many people that's like, if they get to church, that's great. And if they don't, but what I've found is that you miss a little bit. It's just like reading your Bible and doing daily time, whatever. You miss a little bit here, it gets harder the next.
Yeah.
You miss 2 or 3 Sundays, it gets harder to go back the next. You miss the next thing you know, people are like, well, I haven't been in church in a year. I really need to get back. You need to run into them. That is a conversation that is laden with apathy.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that to like you said, I'm not trying to throw stones. I'm just saying it's hard to really speak to apathy in a specific way. Like we're not here trying to talk from business. We're not here trying to talk from family. We're not here to, but the one area that we do operate in is the spiritual community.
Yeah.
That's the area that we lead. And so it's just something that's so prevalent. I think all of us need to ask ourselves, like, to what level is that internal,
and how can you rekindle it?
Yeah.
I mean, you could think of it, here's maybe just, I know we're throwing out a lot of paradigms. Maybe here's another paradigm of how you can just look at it. You can know you're healthy in your body, not because you have a pulse, but because you have hunger. One of the first things that happens if you're sick is a loss of appetite.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that's another way to measure passion in lieu of apathy is, are you hungry?
Yeah.
Spiritually, not are you checking all the religious boxes of ritual.
Right.
Do you have a hunger?
Yeah.
Like that's how I measure. That's how I look at me. Like and I'm just honest with God about it. I've had moments in the last month. God, I'm reading your word. I don't have an appetite.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm really hungry for your presence.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm really hungry for prayer.
Yeah.
I find myself making excuses to kind of avoid your presence right now and just be honest.
Yeah.
Because God works with honesty.
Yeah.
But I think that's another way to look, just different areas of your life. What's your hunger level?
I think what you said is great. I think being honest, I think also doing an internal check, like, I'm not giving myself to that. I'm not giving myself to that relationship.
Yes.
I'm not giving, because that can apathy happens in marriages. I mean, this is the thing that causes them to begin to cool down big time, right? And familiarity and all of that does.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do you rekindle? That's a good question. I think in different environments it's different, but I think the first place is honest, like recognizing, I've been apathetic or whatever, and it's hard to fake yourself out of it.
Yeah.
You're just like, I just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's hard to fake yourself. I think a couple things do help that come to my mind. I think one, especially when it comes to spiritual context, I think this is where surrounding yourself with the right kind of people. Like when I get around other people that are really passionate about what God is doing in our ministry, it rubs off on me. So if the only connection you have to a spiritual community is when you show up on Sunday and you slip in and you slip out and you barely talk to anybody and you don't offer to serve, you don't offer to do anything, to stick around, you're not building community, you're not hanging out with people from that community outside of, you're not in a circle, you're not when you're not around that, it's easy to lose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, I think that's one way you maybe a better way to say it. This is a way to protect against apathy getting in. But I think I think sometimes you just have to go back and it's got to become a priority.
Yeah.
I think about it's like, if your physical shape is something you've been apathetic about and we're talking about it and all you can think about is, man, I haven't been to a gym forever. Man, I haven't worked out in forever. Man, I haven't done this in forever. I mean, get around some people who do go to the gym.
Yep.
So let me just say that can help ignite it. Do you go work out? Yeah. When do you go? You ever care if I come with you? Every gym person's like, come.
Yep.
Every gym person wants everybody else to join them. So get around somebody like that. But sometimes you got to put it on a calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
sometimes
true.
you got to just prioritize. Like, I'm going to the gym.
Yep.
We're going to have a date.
3 things I think to wrap up.
Yeah.
You just said 2. I'm going to add a third. One is who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
The sea level of your life is going to rise and fall by the passion of the people around you.
Yeah.
You get around people passionate about God, going to rub off on you.
Yeah.
You get around people passionate about stewarding finance as well.
Yeah.
Their physical health.
Yeah.
People with healthy marriages that don't badmouth their spouses. Whatever that looks like, that's going to rub off on you.
Yeah.
For good or bad.
Yep.
I'm not talking about, elitism or judgmentalism. I love the variety of people I get to spend time with throughout the week.
Yeah.
There's nobody I won't spend time with. My inner circle are going to be people that elevate me. The people that are close enough to influence me are going to be people that I'm like, oh, I'm comfortable with you rubbing off on me.
Yeah.
So I love that thought that you just gave. I think number 2, like you said, prioritizing it. I think sometimes just taking a simple step. If you've been stuck in inertia and the gravity of apathy,
it's going to be hard too.
It's going to be really hard, and you're going to want to wait till you feel like it. And the more you do that, the less and less you got to do it. But I think the third thing is, to me, it's one of the biggest. You mentioned it in passing earlier. Is the power of vision.
Yeah.
It's only when you allow yourself to dream again.
Yep.
So maybe the positive, because I know it's been maybe more challenging episode, but the positive is give yourself permission to dream.
Yeah.
What kind of man or woman of God do you want to become? What kind of health you want to be in 10 years? What kind of dream and let that vision pull you.
Yes.
and let that vision is fuel. If you're cold with apathy and you want to burn with vision, give it burn with passion. Give it the fuel of vision.
I agree. Make me think of one of the things that's been in the back of my head is the series that we started off the year with, Me and Three, right? And
so good.
So one of the things with that was I wrote out some things that where am I going to be in 3 years? One of those was a weight goal, not to like the time when lose weight but I wanted knowing 3 years from now and how hard it was going to be that I was going to maintain or be under a certain weight. And so as I've at times bounced over that, been a little bit over it right now. In the back of my mind, that's where I think vision comes in the back of my mind, knowing I wrote that down and I don't want to, it's not like, oh, wait 2.5 years and then I'm going to get myself into shape. I want to maintain, I want to keep it. But that vision helps me. Knowing that I wrote that down, what I want to do. I need to go back because we sent it in and I took a picture of it.
Should bring it out here.
There were certain things that
Would you read it up here?
I don't know if I'd read it all in there, but, and some of those things have even shifted. There's things that I, at the time was feeling like there's a season of this, something coming, I want to do this, but I don't know. Whereas I'm getting maybe more clarity. You know what I mean? So some of that, I wouldn't say shifted, but maybe it's coming into focus a little bit more. But that has, I want to say hangs over you, but it really is, I agree, that vision to me is so important. And so in any area, maybe at the end of the conversation that we were just shotgun, it was just all over the place. And so I don't know if anything was helpful. And if maybe you're looking at different aspects of your life and going, I'm good here. I'm a little apathetic in this area. And we mentioned so many different areas, right? Finances. It's a tough one. Finances, health, right? Spiritual life, professionally, relationships, marriage, family, it could be any of those. Those are just areas that are good to assess. And really, how do you assess apathy? I think you just look at passion level. Am I been passionate about these things? What am I trying to create? When we say create, I guess it's not always like I got to create something. Like I might be trying to create a vibrant marriage or dating life, or I might want to be creating opportunities or experiences with my kids or grandkids. You know what I mean? Like it can be that. What's my passion level to fulfilling that? And I think if your passion's low, then apathy is rising.
Right.
It's the entropy of our lives in that.
And regardless of your personality type, if you're a follower of Jesus and you've had the Great Commission landed on top of you as an assignment, I just don't know how you can't burn with passion. That's a big vision.
Yeah. It is.
You've been mandated.
It's a big vision
to go and change the world.
Well,
how can you
go and make disciples of all nations, and even if that's making a disciple or two disciples or one disciple at a time, or you know what I mean? That's for all of us to fulfill. But I agree. There has to become. I think I think it has to go from spiritual life. Has to go from I'm a mess. God forgive me, I don't want to go to hell. Early stage 1. Then it has to go to, I'm called, created, gifted. My purpose, my meaning in life is to make an impact in this world. And where are you on that scale of passion and taking steps? I guess that'd be the thing. Take a step. I think if here's what I would say, simple step. If you only pop in church here and there, it's about all there is to spiritual vitality of your life. I'll give you a real simple step. You go to Welcome to the X, say, I'd like to serve every other weekend for 1 hour, hour and 15 minutes, one experience. Go serve in one area. It's not hard. We make it accessible. We train, we teach with that. One little thing like that. Could begin to ignite something. It really could. Because all of a sudden now you find like, gosh, I really love being with those middle school students. There's something inside of me that just kind of, when they came and said, I don't know what to do, and I was able to share thoughts and ideas and pray with them, my gosh, I just love that. What do you say? There's passion. There's something's happening. And I think that the moment you begin to give yourself to something, even with the smallest step, you can find that place of passion and it'll begin to burn inside of you and apathy burns off.
It is really interesting. I know we got to close, but I'm almost done reading. Speaking of money, I'm like 10 pages away. The last chapter never ends. But I'm 10 pages away of being done with Professor Scott Galloway's book, The Algebra of Wealth. Mm-hmm. And he kind of gives like a flip side. I'm still not sure how I feel about it to students, where he says, don't find your passion, find your purpose, and let it turn into passion. Mm. And where I do think that I think the sweet spot, I'm convinced the sweet spot for all of us is to find where our passions, our gifting, and our opportunities intersect. Mm-hmm. I believe that. But his point was, even if like some people are just like, I don't even know what I'm passionate about. He's like, find an area, build your skill, stick with it, become competent, become great. And what you'll find is whatever you become great at that makes you good money and that helps you succeed in life and that opens up opportunities, you can't become great at something and then not feel the passion from it. And so I think sometimes, I say that because I think what you said is sometimes we wait to feel passion before we give ourselves to it.
Right.
Sometimes passion comes once we give ourselves to it.
I think it does come once you give yourself to it. So in a way, I kind of like agree with him. Plus, the whole idea of what he's saying about finding your purpose, developing a skill, becoming great at something, even if you're not passionate about it, if you're great at it, it will open up opportunities for you to do what you are passionate about.
Yes. Yep.
Even if it's not it. And so you could be you could be doing all that professionally.
Yep.
And I'm building a great career and doing this and go, yeah, I'm doing this, but I'm not super passionate about it. That's okay.
Yep.
Continue doing that, but then recognize that like this is where I think your purpose comes. You understand my purpose isn't to become the greatest at this. My purpose is to become great at this so that I can use what it benefits me, what it gets me to be able to do what I'm really passionate about. And so I don't think it's bad advice either way. Yep. I do think passion tends to follow. I think it's more passion tends to follow purpose though. Mm-hmm. I don't think we always have the passion, to do something. I think about people I know. I've had family members, my family, my wife's family, that feel called to be missionaries in different seasons of their life. Yeah. That's not always passionate about that. Mm-hmm. But when you feel a calling and you feel a sense of purpose, then you begin to move on it. I do think God tends to ignite your heart, though.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the passion will come. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a drudgery to do this. I don't know if anybody going out in the mission field is absolute drudgery. I hate this, man. I got to go. We're moving over to Africa. I just don't want to. It's stupid. This is the dumbest thing. I've never met anybody like that. No. But
that is your worst fear, though, when you're early in your faith. Is God going to make me go to Africa?
There was an old song. You remember that old song, Please Don't Send Me to Africa? Do you know? Oh, yeah. There's an old song that's kind of a parody song. It was like from the 80s. It says, funny. Please don't send me to Africa, God. But I think that passion, I think they go together. Yeah. I think you find your purpose, you're going to find passion. Yeah. It's going to come. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you can find what you're passionate about and be able to figure out how you can operate in your purpose through it. Yep. I think they're more connected than they are separate. Yeah. But
no, that's good.
A bunch of ramblings. Maybe helpful for somebody, one person out there.
Add some fire to your life this week. Add some fire where there's coldness.
I like that.
Do whatever you got to do to rekindle it.
It's good.
And life, I think it's a tragedy to exist instead of live. And if there's any promise I want to endeavor to live under, it's John 10:10 that Jesus says that he's come to give fullness of life. I want to be fully alive. I don't want to just coast through life. I want to be fully alive. I agree. Let us know if this is helpful at all. Share it with somebody. Until next week, we will see you then. Hey guys, it's Russ. Thanks so much for listening. We really believe if we can get around tables instead of behind screens, if we can talk to each other instead of at each other, we can make the world better. To help us do that, here are a few things you can do to help. First, if you haven't yet, leave a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. This helps more than you know. Also, if you have been impacted by the community out of which this podcast comes, that's X Church. Maybe you're local or you've been touched by the messages and impact across the country, even the world. I want to encourage you to support this work. A powerful life principle is to invest in the people and places that invest in you. And so I want to invite you to do that right now by going to thex.church/give. You can give a one-time small gift, a sacrificial gift, or even become a recurring partner. Together, let's keep elevating the conversation, thinking higher, loving deeper, and making the world better.
Cheers.